Okay, so get ready, because today we're diving deep into E.M. Forster's A Room with a View.
Ooh, a classic.
It really is. I mean, this book constantly makes those best of lists.
Yeah.
And we're going way beyond just the surface level. Like, we're figuring out why it still resonates after all these years, over a century later.
Wow.
And yeah, I know people call it a romance, which it is. It's charming, but
That is.
there's this whole other layer when you think about the social commentary, especially for women back then in the early 1900s.
Absolutely.
And it adds this whole other level of like depth.
Oh, that's not just some lighthearted romance.
Mm-hmm.
Forster was really a master at using this love story to examine these deeper societal expectations, especially like you said, for women in Edwardian England.
Yeah, exactly. It's like he gives us this gorgeous view, like a postcard of Italy, but then flips it, and there's this whole message on the back.
Exactly. And that's what makes it so interesting to me, at least. He pulls us into this world that feels kind of familiar, but also completely foreign at the same time.
Yes.
And with Lucy Honeychurch going through her journey, you start to question those expectations too, the ones that define that whole era.
Right, exactly. So let's start with her experience in Italy. Like, why is it so important that she starts in Florence, of all places, not like the English countryside? What's the significance?
That is a great question. Okay, so picture this. Lucy, young woman, good family, she finds herself in Florence. And it's this city that's just alive, art everywhere. And there's this distinct lack of those rigid social structures that she's used to. It's like stepping into a whole new world, one that challenges her on everything she thought she knew, and it awakens this longing in her.
For something more, you mean?
Yes, something more than what society says she should want.
It's like Italy itself becomes this character, almost like it's pushing her, like, break free from all those expectations. And it makes you think about how our environment can really shape us, like physically, but also all those social rules.
Precisely. Think about the Pension Bertolini. It's where Lucy and her chaperone, Charlotte Bartlett, they first arrive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like this mini English society just dropped right into Italy. And it's not an accident that their room at first overlooks a kind of dull courtyard. It's like their constricted lives back in England.
And then there are the Emersons, and they just turn everything upside down.
Oh, yes.
They offer to swap rooms, to give Lucy and Charlotte that view, that famous view.
Right, but it's not really about just the view at all, is it?
No, definitely not.
That room with a view, it's like this big metaphor, well, at least throughout the novel. It's about broadening your horizons, seeing past all those societal expectations, and just embracing possibilities.
So it's interesting you say they turn everything upside down, because they really do embody that, that challenge to just do things differently.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Especially Mr. Emerson. I mean, he sees right through all that social etiquette stuff, right to the heart of things.
He does, and it's so refreshing, but also really unsettling, especially for someone like Charlotte.
Yeah, Charlotte, who's horrified by them.
Yes. But it's these interactions, these moments with the Emersons that make Lucy start to really question those norms she's always just accepted.
It's like she's being pulled between two worlds. You can just feel it. There's the world she knows, the familiar one, but also kind of suffocating, right? That's Charlotte. And then this new world, all exciting and full of self-expression, and that's the Emersons.
A real crossroads.
And she's right there in the middle trying to figure out which path she's going to choose.
Exactly.
It's like her physical surroundings. In Florence, they kind of mirror what's going on inside her.
That's interesting.
You have these wide open landscapes, beautiful, and they just make you think about, possibilities opening up. But then she's in these crowds, these stuffy gatherings, and you can tell her perspective, it gets, I don't know, smaller.
You are so right. Forster was really good at using the setting to make you feel the story more.
Right.
And talking about dramatic moments.
Yeah.
Remember that scene in the Piazza della Signoria?
Oh, yeah.
Not every day you see a murder.
Go.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially in such a beautiful place.
Exactly. Like this reminder, life is fragile even when it's surrounded by all that beauty.
Exactly.
And that's where George comes in.
Right.
I mean, he's literally there to catch her when she faints. And you can just tell.
The connection. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's something there.
It's a huge moment for Lucy.
Definitely.
She's drawn to him, like his sincerity,
Mhm.
No pretense, totally different from the men back in her own world.
Yeah, totally. And then, well, there's that kiss. You
Yeah.
can't forget that kiss. Amidst the violets and
So
Fiesole.
romantic.
Talk about a setting, right? But even then, with all that love in the air, there's this tension, Like the societal expectations are just hovering there.
Weighing her down.
Yeah, exactly. And Charlotte's reaction, I mean, that says it all.
Oh, yeah. And remember what Mr. Emerson said about how it's wrong, like a defeat to separate two people in love. He's contrasting, right? The Emersons, they're open-minded about love. It's so different from Charlotte or even Cecil, who she ends up engaged to.
Yeah, Cecil. He's like everything a Gordian society is supposed to be.
The ideal, right.
Status, he's sophisticated, he knows the right thing to say. But you can tell he's missing something, like real depth.
He's almost like, a beautiful statue.
But hollow.
Yeah, perfectly made, but hollow.
Yeah.
And then you have Miss Lavish, completely different.
Oh, she's great.
Free spirit at that one.
She's like, go on, be adventurous.
Exactly. And it shows there's another way for women, one where passion matters.
Yeah.
And creativity. So clearly Italy changed something in Lucy. You can feel it. But then back to Surrey she goes.
Back to the same old, same old.
Right. And it's like she's trying to just force those new feelings away.
Dumb them down.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. It just shows you that pressure on women, even back then, to fit in, to do what's expected.
It's a powerful message. And marrying Cecil, that's the safe choice. Everyone thinks so. But she knows it's not true love.
Deep down. Yeah.
And that's where it gets really good. Because then who becomes their neighbor? The Emersons.
No way. What are the chances?
I know. And it's all thanks to Cecil.
You're kidding. That's hilarious.
I'm serious. Like, fate is just playing with them, you know?
That's irony.
And it's almost funny, but it also makes you think about those deeper themes about class and who's allowed to move up in society, The Emersons that just don't fit in that rigid world, and just by existing, they challenge everything.
Just by being there, yeah, you got it.
And even the countryside, which you'd think would be, peaceful, it's where her inner conflict really comes out, like that scene with the pond.
Oh, with the swimming.
Yes, George, Freddie, even Mr. Beebe.
It's such a powerful scene, like this moment of pure freedom, They're literally shedding those societal expectations with their clothes.
It's true.
Even Mr. Beebe, and he's a clergyman. He can't resist.
It's like Forster is saying, underneath it all, we all just want that simple joy, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But of course, you can't just defy society without consequences. And Lucy finds that out the hard way when she breaks things off with Cecil.
Big moment for her.
Huge. Not just for her, but for the whole book, It's like she chooses happiness, her own happiness, over what everyone expects.
She realizes that a life with Cecil wouldn't be a real life, not for her.
Exactly. And it's interesting, Forster uses all those little references to other writers.
Oh, yeah, like who?
Beethoven, Hausmann, Thoreau. It's like he's creating this conversation between his work and those other voices, the ones who challenged everything.
It adds so much, don't you think? Like another layer to think about.
Definitely. And speaking of layers, there's that scene with Lucy and Mr. Emerson at Mr. Beebe's.
Oh, intense, right.
Mr. Emerson, he doesn't hold back, does he? He just cuts through all of Lucy's walls and she has to face her feelings.
No more pretending.
And then he finally tells her about his wife. It explains so much, about Mr. Eager and that whole murdering his wife in the sight of God comment.
Yeah, that always bothered me.
Yeah.
It makes you realize, even in a book set back then, these are still things we deal with. Societal pressure,
Yeah.
wanting to be free, having the guts to be different.
It's timeless, really.
Totally. And the ending, it's like coming full circle, back to Florence, choosing love. But even then, it's not simple.
No fairy tale here.
Right. What will their families say? And then there's that appendix, that view without a room. It's like a glimpse into their future.
Bittersweet, isn't it? To think maybe World War I, it changes everything for them.
It makes you wonder, what happens to love during those times? Those big historical events, could they survive it?
Yeah.
What makes this book stick with you, makes you think.
It really does. A Room with a View, it's a classic because it's about all of us, Love, pressure, finding your own way, it's timeless.
It really is. And who knows, maybe it'll even inspire someone listening to go find their own room with a view.
I love that. A room with a view, literally and metaphorically. That's a great note to end on. Thanks for diving deep with me.